Hey, Gavin Syme here, and I'm going to do a video a little bit different real quick, and we're going to examine the evidence of the Oregon Refuge, and we're going to refute the absolute criminal lies coming from the government to try and paint a narrative of, oh, look, these patriots destroyed the refuge. It's ridiculous. It's false. Anybody who's awake knows it, but just in case somebody cares about truth or a media reporter cares about truth, we're going to get to that very quick and very efficiently. Let's start with the photos, okay? Here's the photos we see going around on the news, right? They're sharing all these photos and saying, oh, look how the patriots destroyed this refuge and left it in squalor. It's absolute nonsense. Let's examine that. The first photos they show are actually photos from the patriots themselves. They're taking screenshots as if to say, oh, look how bad this place is, from the photos that were posted by Lavoie, by the Patriots, where they were showing how badly the place had been abused. In fact, we can look at that right here. Here's the photo posted for Bundy Ranch on January 20th. Let's connect the dots here. We're not going to watch the whole thing.
Taken care of. So now, from what I understand,
but we see Lavoie talking.
These are their artifacts.
These are the artifacts.
You want artifacts? Just kind of box them up and let them.
He's showing how they're just thrown in here, and there's rat nests, and the place is just in a state of disrepair because the government hasn't been doing their job. They have no place being here in the first place. It's illegal for them to have this wildlife refuge, for them to steal the land from the ranchers, and they're not even doing their job while they're there.
Just rot down here.
Yes, and for example, let's see, do we have any dates on these? They've been sitting down here. So my question is why do they just keep them down here? This needs to be taken. Let's make sure that we upon. These are our U.S. Department of Interior.
There's the photo they screenshotted.
From 1980. 1980. So they're sitting here from 1980, just sitting in the top of boxes like this. This is how the Native Americans' heritage is being done. So we have these art. See, there's some rats nesting here.
How interesting. So the government, once again, was not taking care of it. Now they go through and they show these photos of garbage that's been stacked out. Now bear in mind, the government came in. The government all along have been the criminals. They were terrorizing the people of Harney County. They still are. They've been terrorizing the ranchers. They were terrorizing the locals. They ambushed and assassinated Lavoie Finicum. Remember, this is the same government that killed innocent women, children at Ruby Ridge, at Waco. This is the same murderous, treasonous government that, in the name of protecting us from terror, terrorizes us and the world, and then says, oh, you have to give up your liberty so that we can protect you from terror. The terrorists right here, friends, are the government. So here's these photos posted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Pacific region, okay? And these are what you've been seeing, the media horrors spread on the news with the absolutely made-up false narrative intended to change the facts and change the story, intended to prejudice juries against these good men, against our prisoners of war, these political prisoners being held for defending the rule of law, for upholding the Constitution, for loving their neighbor, for going down here and actually doing what was supposed to be done with this land. Okay, let's keep going through the photos. So we see, oh, there's some photos of, a little bit of mess here and there. Now we could say, oh, these photos are staged. Well, maybe some of them are, and maybe some of them aren't. Who cares? They're not showing damage here. They're showing the results of some people who fled the place because the FBI and the Oregon State Patrol had just assassinated Lavoie Finicum, and they were coming for them. These people were running for their lives. Okay, now let's go back to some of these videos. Here's an interview that was done with Ammon, and you can see that this was done around January 12th. And Ammon is walking this lady through the refuge. It's tidy, it's organized, they're maintaining it. In some other videos, we saw them shoveling snow and cleaning up the paths. This is no squatters. These are people trying to improve the land.
They go out and they use this equipment to build fence.
And so he's explaining to her what's been happening. There's videos of inside the buildings, so showing how things are being cared for and organized, showing mess halls. Ammon's meeting with veterans that are thanking him.
I'd like to give you something if it would be all right. May I? Sure.
And so there's all this support pouring in from all over America because finally someone is doing something. Okay, there's no squalor, there's no mess, there's no destruction. And so what are the photos that the government releases? Whatever they can to try and make it look bad. So yeah, maybe some laundry was left behind. You can find a similar scene to this in the video that David Fry put out on the final day after they assassinated Lavoie. He was on live stream and they expected to be killed. Most of the people had fled. There was a few of them left. And so, yeah, there's some things left behind. There's no destruction here. We have no idea how much of the mess, how much of the clutter. Looks like most of it is actually stuff that was there from the government. And then there's a few sleeping bags and a little food here and there, things like that. There's no destruction here. And so the government is saying, oh, this is going to cost us $6 million to clean up. Well, really? Because I think the patriots who were there working for free to restore the land to beneficial use, I think they could have this place tidied up in, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. You see, everything the government story is based on is a lie. How about this gem here? This has clearly been this way for a long time. And so they put this photo out and say, oh, look what a mess this place is. They're actually showing photos of their own neglect and attributing that to the patriots so that they can say, we need money to fix what they broke. Because these employees at the Malheur Refuge, they haven't been doing their job. The government hasn't been doing their job because they're not allowed to have this land in the first place. The employees that work for the government haven't even been doing their job. They've been goofing off, leaving the place in squalor and rat dung. And they put out all these stories about trash and garbage and human feces. Look at this. This is clearly some kind of a remodel. Now, whether it started before the Patriots were there or they're doing it now, I don't know. But they're showing these photos as if, look at all this mess they left. Are you kidding me? This is clearly the swept up garbage and clutter from construction and remodel. Have you ever been on a construction job? I mean, you can see bits of cut off pipe here, packaging from building materials, insulation, concrete. It doesn't get more ordinary than these photos. And so they're going around making up a narrative and then putting it out there and saying, look, the Patriots destroyed the refuge. They're taking screenshots like this one from Blaine Cooper's own video where he's showing what a mess the government left this place in. And the news media is actually going out and attributing this chaos and this mess to them. How about human feces all over the refuge? Are you kidding me? Now, this doesn't look like human feces to me. I'm not an expert, but I would say this is probably horse dung. And it looks to me like it's in this building right here that we saw Patriots just a few days before Lavoie's death cleaning up.
Well, Dwayne, what are you doing here?
Barn
Okay.
and trying to take care of this poor old building.
So here's Dwayne. Lavoie's talking to him. He's cleaning up this area because it's been left in neglect by the government. And he's getting it tidied up so it can be useful and functional.
Wagon train stop.
Okay.
And
Friends, I've been a photographer for almost 20 years now. My day job is in photographics and a lot of teaching people how to make photos. I do educational online seminars and stuff. And boy, the federal government, they sure could have done a better job of faking this story, but they don't even care because people who aren't awake and who don't love liberty and who don't love their neighbor will just believe whatever lie the media peddles to them. And a media of no principle who has no concept of what journalistic integrity means will just peddle that story. I mean, it doesn't take a genius of an investigative journalist to figure this stuff out. Here we are in just a couple minutes doing real journalism. And I can tell you, it's very easy to isolate a little bit of trash in a corner and take a photo of it and say, oh, look at this mess. Here's a piece of drone footage. This one's good. This, again, was taken just a few days before they murdered Lavoie. And it's a visitor to the refuge, and they were flying their drone up and looking around. It wasn't a particular supporter of the Patriots or anything, as I understand it. And this was released by the Oregonian. So here their own footage that they put out that people took is coming back to bite them because it shows a refuge being well taken care of. It shows order. It shows things tidy and cleaned up. The narrative from the government is a lie. The only one terrorizing is the government. The only one committing crimes is the government. The employees of the refuge and the federal government and the Forest Service, they're the only ones that have been violating their oaths, neglecting to maintain their property. And people say, oh, well, Gavin, there's a hole. So what? So the government comes in terrorizing people and chases them out and they run for their lives and there's a little bit of clutter left behind. And the media and the government and the slaves out there have the gall to say, oh, they ruined this place. It's their fault. Friends, the only terrorists here is our government. And it goes down all the way to our local courts, our federal courts, judges like Judge Brown down in Oregon, who's denying due process to our patriots as they're locked away in cells away from their families, and all the way down to complicit sheriffs and local officials all over this country. Patriots like our Oregon patriots, like Schaefer Cox, like Jeff Winehouse, like just regular innocent people all over this country being abused, denied due process, the Constitution being ignored, being murdered in the streets, beaten in the streets, locked in cages for nothing. Friends, this is appalling. We have to repent. We have to start standing up. We have to start loving our neighbor. It's time to demand that our patriots are released. Free the patriots. I'm sick of this. If you're sick of the lies, if you're sick of the abuse of your neighbor, then it's time to step up and start loving your neighbor. It's time to start being peacemakers, like Ammon and the Patriots down in Oregon were. It's time to start loving our neighbor, like Lavoie did when he laid down his life to protect others. It's time to start speaking out and speaking up and being principled and repenting and for this nation and its patriots to turn from their sin and their hate of their neighbor. It's time to start defending liberty equally and justly for all and to cast off this wicked government. It's time to start speaking the truth and restore liberty for our children. The narrative is liberty. The patriots, they didn't ruin the refuge. They're not the ones that messed up the land, that destroyed the economy in Harney County and in places like it all over the nation. The government is. This government are the terrorists. And they are terrorizing this entire nation and people all over this world in the name of security and safety and prosperity. They are destroying our children's liberty and locking them in the shackles of a slave. It's time to put a stop to it.